Now, to get the latest on that third boat within a week to have sent out a distress call, we're joined from Parliament House by the Home Affairs Minister, Jason Clare. Good morning. Thanks for your time, Minister. Can you just tell us the latest on that boat that sent out the distress call late yesterday?
Sure. Yesterday we had reports of another vessel in distress, 20 nautical miles south of Indonesia. It came from a fisherman that had rung the Indonesian police and is being managed by Indonesian Search and Rescue. I've been tracking it overnight. The latest advice that I've got from Border Protection Command is that we think that this is a false alarm. We hope it's a false alarm, but we're continuing to liaise with Indonesian Search and Rescue to make sure that that's the case.
When you say false alarm, do you mean that there aren't asylum seekers on board, or that the boat isn't in distress?
That the boat is not in distress. The fisherman said he observed a boat in distress, told the Indonesian police, who then passed that on to Indonesian Search and Rescue. But the advice that we've got from Indonesia is that they haven't identified a boat that is in distress. So that's good news after the events of the last week, where we've had 4 people die yesterday, 90 people die last week. We've had 300 people or more die in the last 12 months. The last thing we need is more people dying at sea. We've got a chance to stop that by passing legislation in the Senate today.
And just give us an update as well on the boat that was intercepted last night.
Sure. Well, I guess 2 things. Let me give you an update on the boat that was the subject of the search and rescue yesterday. We've managed to rescue 130 people, including 2 girls and 12 boys that were on that boat. Unfortunately, the latest advice I have is that there are 134 people on that boat, which means that 4 people perished yesterday. You've asked me about the other boat. Another boat reached Christmas Island last night with 100 people on board. It's all a reminder that people are continuing to take that dangerous journey and risk their lives at sea, with the real risk that more people could perish, and the real imperative that this Parliament needs to act today to try and stop more people dying at sea.
Have you had any contact with your Indonesian counterparts who might be suggesting that this might be a tactic on behalf of the people smugglers and the people who move people on these boats to try and send people as soon as possible before there's a change in policy?
I haven't had contact with my Indonesian counterparts about that. I wouldn't be surprised. Indonesian people smugglers know that it's only a matter of time before the politics ends and the Parliament gets its act together and passes legislation to stop the practice of putting people onto boats. They know, because they're on the internet, they know what's going on in Australia today. I'm certain that they'll be encouraging people to get onto boats before we get our act together as a Parliament and pass this legislation to try and put them out of business.
You went through the horrific death toll from just the last year. Is that really an indication of the failure of Labor's policy in winding back offshore processing?
Well, what it tells us is that this is a really dangerous thing. People are dying on their way getting to Australia. We can stop this with offshore processing, and we made that case yesterday. There's a big debate here happening about what's the best way to do it. Labor Party says that it's offshore processing in Malaysia. The Liberal Party says the best way to do that is offshore processing in Nauru. The bill that was passed by the House of Representatives last night said, let's do both. Put them together. It's a good compromise proposal. The challenge for us as a Parliament today is to live up to the expectations of the Australian people and pass this legislation through the Parliament. It is necessary to make sure that we don't have a repeat of this, that we don't have more people dying at sea.
But do you concede that these boats may not have taken this treacherous journey and these people may not have lost their lives had the offshore processing policy not been retracted by your government?
Well, my view, and I think this is shared by all members of the Parliament, that the people that are responsible for these loss of lives are the people smugglers who take $10,000 a piece off people and put them on the boat. The sooner we pass this legislation, the better. And if we leave the Parliament today with nothing, if the bill doesn't pass, then I think that that'll be a sad indictment on the Parliament. Tony Abbott, the ball is in your court. It's not good enough to just say no when there are people dying out there. You've got an obligation to pass this legislation through the Senate pass it through today. It'll help to stop a repeat of what we saw yesterday and a repeat of what we saw last week.
Because Jason Clare, even members of your own party, Stephen Jones, said there are pull factors. We must acknowledge that as a party and as a country, and we have done that. So if this doesn't pass, which it's pretty much everyone is saying that it's unlikely to pass the Senate, what's the next step?
Well, I think Stephen made the point. He said Australia's the best country in the world. Of course people will want to come here. But the reason that a plan with Malaysia is so important is because why would you give a people smuggler $10,000 if you were going to get sent back to Malaysia? The debate in the Parliament yesterday was really between Malaysia or Nauru. The legislation that was passed by the House said let's do both of them. The debate in the Senate today is either we do both or we do nothing at all. Now, if the Senate decides to do nothing at all, then it's failed the Australian people, and it's failed people who are potentially going to get onto boats and risk their life at sea.
Jason Clare, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Karina.